All right, this is take two. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, I just recorded this a while ago, and then I had people tell me, and sure enough, I checked it out, that the sound didn't work and it was very screechy. So I'm doing it again. Okay, so basically what I want to do right now is I've got one question that was sent to me this week that I want to talk about, and then also about four videos to review. The question, before I get started, for those of you who are your first time here, I'm Mike Caton from Ace Method Coaching. At Ace Method Coaching, I have multiple services for coaches and athletes, mostly around hurdling. And within that, a whole lot about technique, but I help with a hurdle instruction video called Hurdling 101, which takes you from beginner, absolute beginner, to be a good hurdler. But also some people who are already hurdlers, they didn't learn their form correctly the first time. It's a good way to go back and know how to do it. I also sell some hurdle training plans. I have an athlete version and a coach version. It's really designed for a 12 to 13 or so week high school season, but it could be adapted to any situation. I also have a subscription where athletes and coaches pay me for my time, and they ask me a lot of questions, and they send me a lot of videos to get my input on it, give suggestions, workouts, what have you. That's my subscription, and that's my priority. But I do get quite a few requests for free video reviews, and also people who ask me questions. And so the way that I handle that, and what makes most sense from a business perspective, is to lump all of that into, you know what, I got the wrong screen here. Lump all of that into my live stream, where I can just do it. Other people can learn from it as well. And it becomes just another YouTube video for me. So that's what I'm doing here. So like I said, the other day I got asked a good question. I'm going to talk about that and look at some videos. So the question that was asked of me is, how could this person maintain their speed over the 300 hurdles? And they told me that they're a senior, they've been working at it for a while, but they're kind of stuck at a speed. And even though they're now able to last over more hurdles before they start to feel very fatigued, their time hasn't improved, and they want to know why. Could be many factors, but I'll start with the one that is the most logical, and it's not even a reason, it's just basically stating a fact. If you're running in one time and then you run it again in another time, it doesn't matter how you feel or anything. The fact is you ran the same pace. Otherwise you would have run a different time. Sometimes people get caught in a pace that feels right for them, and that's where their comfort zone is, and so they want to stay in that pace. But I can understand your question of saying, well, I did it one week and I was not in very good shape, and the last 2 or 3 hurdles were difficult for me, but then the last time I did it, I felt good up until the last hurdle, so shouldn't I have run faster? And yes, in theory, yes. But there's so many other factors that could have made it feel like you were running the same pace or faster. Maybe you were actually running a slower pace. Maybe the wind was on you more. Maybe you had some fatigue from a race that you had done earlier and you didn't have as much recovery. Maybe you didn't get enough rest the night before. Maybe you didn't eat right the night before, the morning of, or in the meet, and who knows, whatever reason. And maybe it would have been a slower race, but because you lasted longer, it ended up being an equally good race. So many things, especially when I don't have a video to look at, it's hard for me to know how to answer that question. But obviously, your training needs to be good too. And I don't know what your training is like. Good training for the 300-meter hurdles is not only practicing hurdles. You have to be really, really in good shape to endure 300 meters fast going over hurdles. You have to be in really good shape, train like a really good 400-meter runner in order to pull that off. So that means, 3 times a week, in addition to your hurdling, you're also training with the sprinters, the 400-meter runners, doing those type of workouts, a lot of intervals. And then hopefully as the season goes on, you're going through a nice progression that takes you early season and working on endurance, and then your speed endurance, and then your speed to get faster and faster. All this is detailed in my hurdle training program. So if this is not something that you're familiar with, meaning the concepts that I'm talking about, go check that out on my website. But I hope that answered your question. Now I'm going to look at some videos. I believe 4 different videos. Let me go back to the screen that I should have been on the first time, but clicked on this. And I am going to start off, I'm going to go in order here. Emily. So Emily is I believe a senior 100-meter runner, 100-meter hurdler in Colorado Springs, my old hometown. Favorite place I ever lived. Okay, so here's Emily over here in lane 1, looking good in the dark blue Navy uniform. Okay, so Emily is a 4-stepper. Okay, I'm going to go back and make an assumption here. So I'm going to assume, Emily, that this being your 9th hurdle, that was your left leg. That's the same hurdle that you would have gone over your first leg with, and you did this with your left leg. So when I said your first leg, also your left leg. So that I'm going to assume that your favorite leg is the left leg, but you're really good at both. So let's talk about that. Unfortunately, being the farthest from the camera, and you have these 2 girls who get in front of you. So this, if I'm right, is your non-dominant leg. Well, by the way, before I get into any critique, let me just say I think you're doing fine. You're 4-stepping very comfortably, looking very competitive, okay? But nobody reaches out to me when they're totally happy. So let me give you some advice. So I'm going to assume again this is your non-dominant leg. So I'm really going to watch you come off of that hurdle. I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to see if I can watch you running between the hurdles. Okay. Some things to notice is notice that your chest is right towards the side, which means that you are twisted up, rotated clockwise on your upper body, which means that your lower body is also twisted the other way, because there's no way only half of your body would be twisted. It's always in opposition. But I'm also watching you. I can't really see because these girls are in the way. Very rude. Okay, so I'm going to look at your last step going over the hurdle. And again, this should be your, this should be your non-dominant leg, because this would be dominant. Okay. All right, so here we are with your non-dominant leg. Okay, a little bit of a too long of a stride right there. One of the things that's really striking me right now is the fact that you have no lean going over the hurdle. Not that you have to have a lot as a girl, because the hurdles are lower, but normally you would see some lean. And I'm also watching your hips, or your blue shorts compared to this white line. And ideally, they'll stay right in that line the whole time. But you see that they raise significantly above that white line and then come down into the white line, which means that you're getting too much of a leap, too much of a jump. Let's see if we can figure out why. Well, one is because you're too close to the hurdle, because you're 4-stepping. And so it forces you to go high. The other is your speed. It could very well be I'm going to get to this later, that maybe your speed's not enough to take off far enough away in order to not go too high over the hurdle. But definitely you can see this. It's at least a foot over that hurdle, okay, when I see the bottom of your shorts. So keep that in mind. That's your main thing right now. And here you are landing. Not bad. And it's kind of grainy, but I believe that your leg comes up here. Here's your knee, and then your hips are back here. So you're sitting back off of that hurdle. And when you come off that hurdle, you want to get those hips forward, and then you just push really hard off this leg, okay? So that's it. So this leg coming down actually looks pretty good. This is not a bad stride, but see how you're kind of bent over a little bit? Little bit space right here. This is again another big stretched out space. And then here's your fourth step. This girl's bent over too. And here you are getting ready to go over that hurdle. Okay, so things that I can see, you got a straight arm over here and a straight arm over here, right? Kind of helicopter-ish. Could be that it's late in the race and you're fatigued, but that is definitely an issue. Also, you're farther away from the hurdle on this one, but you're still a bit too high over that hurdle. At least you're coming down on it. And I can see that your trail leg on this one just really stretches out far there, and your arm is right behind you. So definitely want to work on tightening your arms. And you definitely want to work on, let me go to this one. When you put that leg down and you plant it, you want to drive this knee right into the top of this hurdle, okay? You won't hit it, but just go for it. That'll keep you low. Lean into it more. Just try not to let your hips rise. Just try to stay right at this level all the time. And then just let your legs wrap around that hurdle to stay low. It's going to make a huge difference on your speed, okay? The one thing that I do notice, though, is I have to wonder about your speed and can you actually three-step? Here's what I mean by that. In order to three-step, there has to be significant enough speed. Like you need to be able to run a 100-meter dash, I'm going to estimate, in under 14 seconds, okay? Now, when I look at you here, this doesn't look like that kind of speed, but it's also very possible that that's the kind of speed that you hurdle with in order to do 4 steps and maintain composure over the hurdle. And maybe without the hurdle, you're just a whole lot faster. If that's the case, then I suggest trying to learn how to three-step. And if you don't know what that is, that would mean that you pinch the hurdles together at a spacing that you can three-step comfortably, and then try to get really good, really proficient at that, get used to the feeling, and as you get better, then you gradually spread out those hurdles by 6 inches. Get that down, then try it again, and just keep repeating that until you are within 12 inches of the hurdle, of the actual spacing in a meet. And then, based on my experience, you should be able to go to a meet and three-step. That'd be what I'd work on. But also, again, staying low, keeping your arms tight. But if you find that you don't have the speed to three-step, maybe your 100-meter dash time is 14.5 or something like that, then I would say you probably just need to focus on being the fastest 4-stepper you can and getting lower, turning over faster. I would watch my video. I have 2 videos on YouTube that you should watch. One is my 3-stepping video. The other one is my 4-stepping video. That'd be my recommendation. And they will show you how to be the best you can at either one of those races. So I hope that helped. Let me look at your other one real quick, just since we're here. Actually, it's tough to see, but it's more of the same. So that's what I recommend, Emily. Okay, I hope that helped. I hope that helped. Let me go to James. Let's see James' other one. Okay. Okay. All right, so James is the person that won this race. Let me see the other one. Seems like this. Yes, it says lane 7, first place. But I hope. Let me see something here. Okay. Let me see if this is the same person. Yeah, same person both times. Okay, so if this is you, James, indeed you, and your question was, why can't I three-step? Well, here's your left leg, and here's your right leg. Okay, so you're four-stepping, but I can tell you any coach with any experience with hurdles would look at you and say, you should be three-stepping. I mean, look at this. You look fast, you look athletic, and you're way bunched up, running with tiny steps and too close to the hurdle and jumping super high, losing all your speed. So the only reason you can't three-step is in your head, okay? So all you need is an ounce of confidence. So what I would do is the same thing I just told Emily. Go check out my my YouTube video about how to three-step. I'm not going to go into the details again. Watch that part in the video, but check that out, and that's what you need to do. You would be probably in 1 hour. In fact, if I were with you live, I feel like in 15 minutes I could have you three-stepping. But without me, probably just an hour of you following what that video says, you'll be fine. And then everything else, I'll just tell you, taking these tiny steps, you're losing a bunch of speed. Jumping really high, you're losing a bunch of speed. And imagine if you maintain your speed all the way through, it'd be no problem at all. So I'm not even going to go into the technical stuff because they're going to change the moment this finally clicks in your brain and you have the confidence to plow through this in 3 steps. You're going to be just fine. Okay, Matt. Okay, Matt. Let me just say, if anybody's watching this right now and you have a question for me, go ahead and leave the question in the chat or whatever YouTube calls it, and I'll check it out when I'm done with these videos. Okay, so Matt, this is Matt right here, blue top, red shorts, and no real notes, just obviously wants to know what he can do to get better. So let's figure that out. Okay, Matt, looking aggressive. Looks like you've done this before. That's unusual filming technique. Okay, but really good video. Okay. So a lot really good. I mean, good rhythm. There's nothing really wrong about your technique. Whoa, okay. At all. Okay. The main thing is your running between the hurdles, okay? Let me show you something when you get closer here. Man, that zoom out is freaking me out. Okay, so watch this. Look at the way you run down, squatted down low, and then you jump up, and then watch, you'll get down low, don't know if you can see that. You are not, you're down, okay? If you are running the 100-meter dash, I don't think you would run that way. If you're trying to run as fast as you could, you wouldn't do that. If you're running in football maybe, and you knew you were going to get hit any second, you might run down low like this, but not when you're trying to go fast. So the problem is you're staying down low, and you also have you're bent over, right? So that means your hip has to be back in order to do that. You really want to get up tall, get your hips forward, land on your balls or your feet underneath you, and it'll make a big, big difference, okay? So if you're running faster and you just took off of this leg as hard as you can, but driving this knee right into the top of this hurdle, but trusting that your years of drills is going to make sure that your legs wrap around it, would be good. Okay, this is pretty good. Good distance from the hurdle. You're reaching your top of your jump right here in front of the hurdle, then coming down on the hurdle, which is what you want. But notice how far away from the hurdle you are. For somebody who took off and came down on the hurdle, your foot is too far, but also look, you're sitting back, right? At this point, let me see if I can capture this moment. Somewhere between here and here, well, let's just say here. At this point, you should be past having your leg and your hips straight up from your ankle, and your hips should actually be in front of your ankles, but yours are obviously back. Your knee is bent here, so you're sitting back. The thing that you need to do, in addition to the running, changing the way you run, is as you come towards this hurdle, this looks good right here. As you start coming down and you start pulling back on this arm, you want to think about pushing your hips forward, shifting them forward. That will help your lead leg drop down quicker, and you'll get off of that hurdle standing up tall, ready to run, versus back like this, all hunched over and wanting to run like a caveman, right? We don't want that. So that's the main thing that will make you faster. Okay, the running that I talked about and coming off the hurdle tall with your hips forward, that's what you need to do. Hey, by the way, anybody watching these videos and you're thinking, hey, man, I think this guy can help me. Two things you can do. One is you can send me a video, but the other thing you ought to consider is my Ace Hurdler subscription, where I can do this for you every day. You can send me practice videos. I mean, there are people that I'm communicating with easily 3 times a week, all for $29 a month, at least at the time that I'm recording this, which is a crazy steal. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I think I should raise those prices. Just kidding. Okay, Melvin. This is going to be a quick one because I'm breaking my rule because I didn't have many videos. I'm looking at Melvin's again. But the way it works is I charge for this service. I do this free ones just to help the community. But beyond that, you know, anyway, let's look at this. So Melvin is right here, lane 5, looking good. Okay, let me slow that down. Okay, very nice coming out of the blocks. I do think you're too high over the hurdle. Other than that, everything looks good. This is actually a good position, but you should be touching down right now. If you weren't as high over the hurdle, your toe would be hitting the ground right now, but you still have a ways to go, okay? Good trail leg. This is, if I remember correctly, a big improvement. Oh, I don't like that stretch going into this. Remember, you want this if anything, your other stride should be longer so you can shorten this step, okay? That's part of the reason that you're going too high. You want a shorter, what we call a cut step, as you get ready to clear this hurdle again. So look how high you are. Your movement is great though, but you should be touching down right now, at least right here. And you are sitting back, kind of falling back into the hurdle. So you really want to get those hips forward, okay? Part of it is because your height. I mean, the height over the hurdle does that. But you're controlling it surprisingly well. So if you could drop 4 to 6 inches off that hurdle and just really scrape it, you would be even faster, okay? That was a good drop of that trail leg. Okay, moving on. Last one. I don't know if this is Reagan or Reagan in lane 1 over here. Okay. Okay, so that struck me as odd. Looks like you're like shaking back and forth. Watch this. Definitely. I don't know what that's all about. Something about your start. It's too far away and too pixelated for me to figure that out. I'm going to watch you once in full speed. Okay. Okay. I want you to notice, I mean, definitely you look fast, you look aggressive, you look athletic. Here's one thing I want you to notice about your race. I want you to notice the speed that you have over the first 3-ish hurdles, and then notice how it changes. See how quick you are over the hurdles? And then all of a sudden slower, big strides, floating more, even especially there, even more. That's normal. That's because as the race goes on and you're losing speed, okay? So the thing is, and this is the problem when I don't know anything about somebody and they just send me a video, is I don't know anything. So I have to make some assumptions. Otherwise it's, I don't know. I like giving you significant assistance, not just saying, oh, hey, look, your lead arm is straight. Okay. I'm gonna make an assumption. You're either young, like freshman, sophomore, or you're not tall. Okay. Or you're kind of short. The reason why I say that is you look like that compared to the height of these hurdles. These are 39-inch hurdles, and you're having to work really hard to get over them. And what I'm going to say is actually got a purpose, because there's lots of guys in this situation, and they all have the same problem, okay? It's an unfair advantage. It's not unfair. It's a disadvantage to get over such a tall hurdle. The way you compensate for this, not that it's ever going to even it out. You're always going to be disadvantaged. But the way to help you to stay low over the hurdle is to jump farther, to leap farther over the hurdle. So you need to take off from a farther distance, and you need to definitely land farther away from the hurdle than your taller counterparts, okay? So the other thing that tends to happen is because everybody else is hitting the ground right here, and you still have another foot to go, you have to pull up your trail leg really high and kind of let it dangle there for a while until you hit the ground. That kind of sucks, but it's just the way that it is, okay? But here's one. So anyway, that's a little tip for you there. But the one thing that I really want to point out is if you're already at a disadvantage because of your height, the last thing you want to do is jump high over that hurdle, which you're just too high over the hurdle. Okay? So, like I said, practice taking a really big leap and staying really low over the hurdle so you can get to the ground sooner. Okay? And then hopefully you'll maintain more speed. See, look how high you're over the hurdle here. Even worse. You can maintain more speed, and then you'll stop having to stretch out so far because you'll be closer to the hurdle all the time. Okay, look at this. See how at this point you have both arms forward? At this point, this arm should be behind you. It started out behind you, then you pull it forward. You just brought it forward too soon, okay? Hold it there until you're on your way to come down, and then you pull it through at the same time as your left knee, but bring it through like a regular running arm. So it looks like that, okay? Anyway, now look how far, that is far. That is super far. That's farther than you're comfortable with, I'm sure, but you know, you're just getting tired and you're ending up farther and farther away from the hurdle, and you're having to do everything you can to not hit that hurdle. So I admire you. But I'm telling you what you need to do is stay lower over the hurdle. So really work on that. I hope that helped. That's a tough one. Someday I think I'm going to make a video about how to, for shorter guys to hurdle. I think that's a good idea. Anyway, that is it for the things I'm reviewing. I have some questions. Let me go back to here, go back to YouTube. Sergio, question. How would you approach young athletes that want to get really close to the hurdle, and then obviously they jump high and each hurdle is harder? Okay, thank you, Sergio. I appreciate that. Okay. Well, okay, so the question that you're asking is very, very common for new hurdlers, because what they want to do is jump over a hurdle. So they get too close to the hurdle. And if you've ever seen my stuff, let me see if I can do this with my notebook as a hurdle, and here's my fingers. If you're too close to this hurdle, then you have to take a steep angle to get over that hurdle, which means that you have to continue to go up and get too high and then drop down on the other side. What you want to do is get farther away from the hurdle so you can take a steeper angle at the hurdle and stay lower over the hurdle. Okay? So how do you get someone to do that? It's all about confidence. So I never teach a person with regular height hurdles. I first want them to get used to the sensation of running between really fast and approaching a hurdle really fast and leaping forward straight, staying horizontal the whole time and just wrapping their legs around the hurdle. Because really, hurdling is supposed to be sprinting, and then you just take one big sprint step over the hurdle. It's not supposed to be jumping high over hurdle and landing, okay? And so once an athlete learns how to do that, it's hard to break that, and you always have to go back to the drawing board, and that's what my hurdling 101 is. It's a way of just starting from the beginning and learning how to be horizontal, and just that sensation of planting that plant foot, leaping forward into a hurdle, wrapping your legs around it and do your arms in the right motion, and then coming off that hurdle with never having gone up and then never having lost any speed. And then you can get used to it and you can gradually raise the height of the hurdles. So in the perfect world, you've got adjustable hurdles that you can go from, say, 18 inches to 22 inches, and then gradually raise them up as they get used to them and they're not afraid to knock those down. If you don't have that, then sometimes you can just take hurdles, tip them upside down so they're like a triangle, and they're low, and you can just practice jumping over them, and then you turn it up and as low as you can go and just gradually get used to that. And then you can go over the hurdle better because you establish that sensation. Okay, so Sergio says, so would you run a lot of simulation runs with discounted distance? Yes. Okay, great question. So I think you're new to following me. So in everything that I teach, it starts with what I just told you, but it also, as you're ready to now, let's say you got shorter hurdles, you want to pull them in close and just let them get used to the sensation. And then you gradually spread out the hurdles and get used to what that's like. And then eventually you're going to, get to hurdles that are, say, 30 inches. I'm talking about a girl. So for a boy, I might even teach them at 30, then go to 33 and then 36. But anyway, and then you practice with the hurdles closer. And in my Hurdling 101, it's very detailed, but I also summarize it in a YouTube video that I have about how to three-step. And it's the same thing I've been talking about. You space the hurdles out at a distance where the athlete can comfortably three-step. And then you wait until they master that and they're really good and they're low and they're fast and they're doing it all right at their optimal spacing. And then you spread it out about 6 inches. And then you get used to that. And when they get good at that, you spread it out another 6 inches. And you keep doing that until they're close enough to where they can race. And here's what I mean by that. In practices, my hurdlers never, and I mean never, go full spacing. Even when I've had hurdlers who are state champions, returning state champions, we would never practice at full spacing. It's just not fair because practice, you're running multiple repetitions, you got fatigue, you're not full of adrenaline, you're not excited, so your body can't perform at the same level. So if I can get my girls and my boys to be within about a foot of the regular spacing and they're comfortable doing that at practice, then I say, good, you're ready to race. Then you put on the spikes and you got the meat, the adrenaline, everybody's in the crowd, and you can do it a lot easier. Okay, so that's what I do. So when they're learning, it's very close, the spacing, and you go from there. Okay. Let's see here. By the way, everything I'm talking about, big time detailed in my Hurdling 101. Also, if you go to my series of coaching videos on YouTube, I talk a lot about that in there. So the ones about teaching beginners, how to train people, coach athletes for the 100 meters, drills, all that is in there. So go through my hurdling series, okay? Everything's in there. Okay, Zelek. I have a track meet tomorrow, but how do I run so that I can learn to land on my feet as fast as possible in one day? Okay. Okay. Well, let's see here. What's the best way to say that? First thing, okay, here's how I train people how to run. I tell them to jump up and down as if they were jumping rope, right? And do that like 10 or 20 times and feel that sensation of striking the ground on the balls of your feet, all right? And then when they say, okay, I feel that, and their ankles are flexing, their knees are flexing, and their hips are flexing, and they feel that, like you're jump roping. I say, okay, now I want you to start alternating legs, like if you're jump roping but changing legs, but always landing on we say your toes, but really it's the balls of your feet, and get used to what that feels like. Okay, now you feel that. And then what you do is you just start leaning forward to where gravity starts pulling you, then you start running. And you do that even faster and faster and faster, and the whole time always striking on the balls of your feet as far underneath you as possible, and get used to that sensation. And once it clicks, it's pretty cool. And then But now when you start sprinting, that kind of changes it because you're still like that, still striking the ground like that. In fact, with my athletes, we do jumping in place and running in place every single practice just to remind our bodies of the sensation of that. Okay? But sprinting up tall, but just striking the ground. There's just no way I can cover all that information in this amount of time. I'll tell you what I'll do. Is if you email me at acemethodcoaching@gmail.com, I have a video that shows how I like sprint technique to be, and it shows some really good high school hurdlers doing it and some drills and how to do it. I typically reserve that. I have my videos on YouTube, but then I've got some private stash that I use for my subscribers. But anyway, I'll send you that link because you got to email me for it. Okay, let's see here. That is all the questions I seem to have here. I'm going to wrap this up. So if you like this and you say, hey, I want him to help me, then send me a question, acemethodcoaching@gmail.com. If you want me to see your video and review your video for free on the show, go to acemethodcoaching.com, go to the hurdle page, and you will see a place where you can send your video. And then for anybody who does this, please give me as much information as you can, like who you are in the race. What grade are you in? What's your goal? What do you really feel like you want help with? That way I know, and I can try to answer the question while I'm looking at your video. It's just so much more interesting also for people that are watching. But if you see this and you say, well, hey, how can I learn about this Hurdling 101? It's all on my website. How can I learn about your training program? All on my website. I either have a hurdle training plan, but I also have my subscription. And that's my priority. That's where people in my subscription send me videos all the time. They send me questions all the time, sometimes multiple times a week. And that's my priority. And I just go over that. And then as I can, in between that and making YouTube videos, I do this live show so I can help everybody out. So anyway, I hope that helps. And if you want help from me, I would love to help you. You know where to find it, acemethodcoaching.com. And I'm done. Coach Ace out. See you next week.